we're going to need one of these cones. These are a styrofoam cone that we picked up from Michael's. So this is going to be our waffle cone. And to get that waffle cone effect, we're going to use some burlap. So this came from Walmart. I got 1 yard of it and it was $2.97. We're not going to need the entire yard, but I am figuring we're going to double up because it is a loose weave burlap and you do see through it. Another option that I just wanted to make you aware of is you could actually spray paint this a beige color. That would work as well. Just make sure it's a spray paint that you can use on styrofoam so it doesn't eat the styrofoam up. So I'm going to start by cutting this in half. So realistically, for this 18-inch cone, you only really need about half a yard or so. So for this $3, we're going to be able to create 2 of these cones. So make sure you have sharp scissors to reduce the frame. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take the cone, place it at an angle on the end, and start wrapping it. So here's the back of our cone, and since this is going to be for the inside of my house, I'm just going to take a few floral pins to secure it. So I'm just placing them at an angle and placing them almost all the way down. We'll do those 3, and that is going to keep it secured. So if you wanted to come back in with some hot glue to secure it even more so, you absolutely can. But I think it's going to be fun to switch this up for different seasons and holidays. So by not making it permanent, we can switch this up and design something for fall, Halloween, or Christmas later on. Up next, we have some of our pipe cleaners. We have these in beige and a bunch of colors. The beige today, I think, is going to work the best because we don't really want to have much of a contrast. So since we have a styrofoam cone, what we're going to do is just poke the pipe cleaner into the back. Again, if you wanted to add some hot glue at this point in time, you absolutely can. Pull it up towards the top and poke it in. So we're going to do this every few inches or so to create that waffle cone effect. And for the bottom, we're not going to need a full-size piece. So we'll just snip a pipe cleaner in half. Okay, so that is one side. Let's come back in the opposite direction. So up next, we're going to work in some of our peony. We're going to start with the fuchsia, and we're going to just snip off the flower heads. So these are high-quality peonies, so we can absolutely take the foliage left over from these and use them elsewhere. I always like to save the foliages and put them to use in other designs because I don't like to be wasteful whatsoever. So I've decided to work in a little bit of foam on top of the cone. So I just have right here a brick of dry foam. It's also known as styrofoam, and I'm going to take a serrated knife and cut about a 2-inch brick. And this we're just going to hot glue directly on top of the cone. That way when we add our florals, we have a little bit more of a base, especially since these peony stems aren't as sturdy as other florals. So to apply the hot glue, I'm going to take a scrap floral stem, swirl it around in my hot glue skillet, and that's what that black device is. I think it's such a time saver. It's essentially a crock pot full of hot glue. So I'm just going to take a decent amount, apply it to the top of the foam, and I'm going to take that foam and then compress it against the styrofoam. So you don't really want to skimp with the hot glue because that's what's really going to keep it in place. And now we have a nice base of foam to come back in with some florals to create the ice cream part. We're going to start with a layer of these hot fuchsia peonies. So we're just going to cut the stems short and work them right in the foam. So you can come back in with some hot glue either after or just dip your stems right into the glue skillet. I think it'll be fun to change this out for each season and do, a holiday-specific ice cream cone. I mean, who doesn't enjoy ice cream year-round? So I'm not hot gluing these in. That way I can take them out and work in other colors depending on the time of year. So what we're going to do is create a nice little ring rather close to the burlap. Reason being, I don't want to be able to differentiate the cone from the flowers. I don't want to be able to see that gap, so place it nice and close to it. Now we're going to come back in with a few final flowers to finish up the right-hand side. And we're just going to take them and stick them right in. So we're using some smaller blooms, some larger blooms. So if there's different blooms within your stem or bush of flowers, you absolutely can make it work. So that's what our first layer of flowers looks like. Now let's come back in with another color. So these are green hydrangeas, and what's really nice about them is each individual stem has one large bloom, and all of the blooms are the same size. So if you're trying to make it super uniform, all of these blooms are going to be identical, and you're going to be able to create a really nice kind of cluster of ice cream, if you will. So we're going to cut the stem short, leaving only about 2.5 to 3 inches or so, and just poke that in right on top of the fuchsia peonies. So this is going to be our second layer of ice cream, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I think with ice cream cones, you have the most amount of ice cream at the bottom, and then it gradually gets smaller and smaller. So we're going to keep this one a little bit more compact,
And then our final layer of white peonies is going to be the smallest layer with the cherry on top. So we're going to poke in our third and final bloom on the left-hand side now. And notice that crisscross that we have for the waffle cone. I think adding those pipe cleaners was the perfect touch. But now it's time to come back in with our white peonies. So I'm going to cut this about 2 or 3 inches past the bloom to have a long enough stem. And notice that we're not using any foliage here. We're just focusing on bloom power. We don't really need any of the leaves on this design, or else I think it'll throw off the entire ice cream cone. So I'm just going to face this towards you. We're going to work in 1 peony directly in the middle, and then 2 more peonies on either side. And what we're actually going to do is compress the 2 peonies on either side a little bit more. That way we kind of have a roundy-moundy top of our ice cream cone. So we're going to work in this final peony, making sure it's going in the foam so it stays exactly where it's put. And look at how pretty that combo looks. So think of all different seasons and holidays. You could do red, white, and blue. For Halloween, you could do orange, lime green, and black, or orange, purple, and lime green. For Christmas, you could do poinsettias. You could do, different shades of poinsettias. There's so many different possibilities to create these ice cream cones. Our finishing touch is going to be the cherry on top, and for the cherry, we're going to use a geranium. And I chose the smallest bloom off of this bush because I didn't want to have a massive, cherry on top. So this is the smallest bloom. What we're going to do is just take that long stem and poke it right in between the peonies for that cherry effect, and I think that looked perfect. And I think it was a good decision to have the white on top as well for that nice contrast. To make a hanger, we're just going to take a pipe cleaner and twist the end secure. You want to make sure you twist at least an inch and also twist it really, really tightly together. You want those twists to be really close to not have any possibility of it slipping out. So once you twist that completely tight, what you can then do is take a little bit of hot glue and poke that right into the foam. So you still see a little bit of the brown foam up top because we decided to add in an extra brick of foam at the end. But you could just take a little bit of that leftover fabric that we got from Walmart for like $2.97 and just cover that up so you're not seeing any of that unsightly foam. And that is as easy as it can be to create a hanger. So don't make it overly complicated. Adding a hanger to a wreath or a design can be really simplistic, and it's as simple as just taking a pipe cleaner and making it work. So that is the finished design. I absolutely love the way it turned out with those 3 layers of ice cream. And I think the cone was the perfect effect for a waffle cone, especially with those beige pipe cleaners kind of crisscrossing on the bottom. Then we came back in with a layer of peonies, 3 hydrangeas, and 3 white peonies with our cherry geranium up top. So thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'm Nick Kretikos of Nick's Seasonal Decor, and you're watching me on Hometalk. Bye, everyone.